Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So my husband and I once spent less than a day in Munich, but we still got to see a whole bunch, and I actually just did a video about an overview of our itinerary and general travel tips that I'm gonna link up here about how to see a lot in a short amount of time, as well as just general tips about traveling to Europe. So after you're done with this video, definitely make sure to check that out for more tips. So if you are in Munich for a very short amount of time, it may be because you're there before starting a river cruise, or you're there for Oktoberfest, you're there for work, and maybe you're going on a rat race across Europe like we did that I talked about in the itinerary video. But in any case, I'm going to share our tips and experiences about what we saw in Munich, what we would do differently, what we really recommend, all in this video. So I hope this gives you some ideas and recommendations and gets you excited for your upcoming trip. If you're new to my channel, hi, my name is Sarah. I'm a nationally certified personal trainer and nutrition specialist at fitstyle.com. I'm also the author of the cookbook, Cooking Without a Kitchen, and the creator of Fit in 20 Minutes, which is a completely customizable, pre-made workout plan that's on Amazon as well. On this channel, I put out videos every week. Many are related to travel, and this is my second video in a whole travel series that's coming up. But I also do videos about how to make life just a little bit easier. So whether you are a parent or not, there are a lot of videos about how to make life a little simpler as it relates to cooking, cleaning, organization. Those are all areas I'm really passionate about and that we can all use systems for to make them even easier. But travel is a huge part of my life. I think in another life I would be a travel agent, but I am going to link my travel playlist down below where you can see all the videos I've done related to travel, and then just make sure that you're subscribed down below. It's free, you just hit that red subscribe button so you don't miss out on the new travel videos that I have coming up. I mentioned this in my itinerary overview video, but we were only in Munich for a short amount of time because we had this trip planned to Europe where we were mainly gonna go to Italy, and it turned into this whole big trip where we saw just a whole bunch of cities and countries in a short amount of time. But our flight connected in Germany, in a different city, on the way to the rest of Europe, and we decided that instead of connecting in like Dusseldorf, Germany, we decided to connect in Munich instead and go to Oktoberfest. You can see how that itinerary evolved and escalated in the last video, but anyway. So the first thing we did was go to Oktoberfest, and even if you're not there during Oktoberfest, I would still recommend going to a beer house. I would probably recommend not going to somewhere like Hofbrauhaus just because it's kind of a typical place where Americans go, and I prefer a more authentic feel. So we ended up going to Augustiner and Paulaner. But my first tip would be to check out a beer garden. Now, if you are going to Oktoberfest, I do have specific recommendations on that. The first is to dress the part. And we read this a lot before we left, but basically we read that you stick out like a sore thumb and you totally look like a tourist if you are not dressed in traditional German garb. So we ordered a dirndl for me and a Bunthosen for my husband, and we wore it. And then truly, we did not stick out. That is also probably because we look very German. But also, there was one couple in the entire tent that was dressed in just jeans and a t-shirt. They were Americans, and no one was mean to them or anything. I think that's sometimes the fear before you travel to another place is if I stand out, like, are they gonna be mean to me or something like that? No one was. It's just that they stuck out a lot, and it's way more fun to dress up anyway. Of course, if you're there for any other time besides the festival, you don't have to dress up in a dirndl and Bunthosen, but if you are there for Oktoberfest, definitely do it. I will link where we bought ours below, but you could just buy the outfits there, but because we were there for such a short amount of time, we needed to have them from the get-go, so we packed them with us. Second tip about Oktoberfest is to make reservations for the beer tents. This is something that we didn't do, and it worked out. We got into beer tents, but it was pretty stressful between the time we realized, oh crap, we didn't make reservations and we really should have, to getting into the tent. And it just felt like a huge relief once we got into it and we're like, I can't believe we got a spot. But especially because we were actually there at the very end of the festival. So we thought, like, why would we need those when everyone's probably been to Oktoberfest already by that point? Yeah, you still need them. We couldn't make them once we realized our mistake because it was too late. So we just had to hope for the best. I think being dressed the part really helped us get in. The second thing that really helped us get in was the fact that my husband knew that you don't make the number 2 like this in Germany. You make it like this. So when we walked into a tent, the first thing they ask is how many are in your party? And so my husband did this instead of this. And we got seated right away. Seated right next to Germans. Number 3 is have Google Translate, but still have a backup and know some words in German beforehand, know some typical menu items in German, because our Google Translate didn't work when we were in there. I guess just not having reception or something like that. So knowing some key phrases and words in other languages of the countries that you're visiting, of course, is a general tip anyway, but this menu, for example, didn't have a lick of English on it and we had no idea what to order. In a way, that's kind of fun because it was a really authentic experience, but we were also clueless. Luckily, we were sitting next to a German couple and they spoke English and we're actually all still Instagram friends. And anyway, we went on their recommendation. So they ordered us some chicken and this cheese that I'm going to put the name of it in here. It begins with an O, but anyway, it was delicious. And pretzels that were as big as our heads. And of course, beer. Next are some tips that are generally good tips, but also still pretty related to Oktoberfest. The first is to plan your time accordingly. So a few days before we left, we started going to sleep at a different time so that we could be adjusted to the time difference by the time we got to Germany. So what we did, we slept on the plane on the way to Germany, which was about 8 hours, and then we woke up at 8 a.m. in Munich feeling like it was 8 a.m. So we went straight to Oktoberfest after our flight. Next is a look at the calendar of events of where you are going. We didn't do this besides looking at the calendar for Oktoberfest to make sure we didn't miss the festival. Here's what we didn't know. The day that we got there, and we were actually supposed to get there a day later, and you could check the itinerary video to see how our trip unfolded, that we got an extra day and went a day early, but the day that we were at Oktoberfest was a German national holiday. So even though it was the tail end of Oktoberfest and we thought crowds were gonna be pretty low, the entire country was off work. And I think Austria was too. So so it was still really crowded, and that explains why it was so hard to get a tent as well, and the fact that we didn't make reservations. But yeah, that is also why hotels were so expensive and why we chose not to spend the night in Munich after all. And we ended up taking a train to Salzburg, Austria that night, a couple hours away, and spending the night there. So that makes it pretty unbelievable that we got a seat in a beer tent at all because everybody was off of work. My next tip is to dress the part, and we already talked about dressing for Oktoberfest, but I'm actually talking now about if you leave the tents and the festival and you're just walking around the city, just make sure that you are dressed somewhat nice. And by somewhat nice, I just mean like jeans and a nice top. My husband wore jeans and a jacket and kind of no, he wore chinos, but he could have worn nice jeans. It's not like they're not wearing jeans there or anything. You just don't want to stand out as a tourist. Like, don't wear a big shirt that says Nike on it and roam around. I just think that you're going to be obviously not from there. And I think that can be somewhat dangerous in a pickpocket situation, which is just something that you have to keep in mind when you're traveling somewhere. I mean, even in the States too, they're of course here, but when you are abroad, you don't really want to call attention to the fact that you're not from there if you can help it. So yeah, so my husband wore chinos and a button-down shirt. I wore a nice top and dark jeans and a trench coat. And actually, even American tourists came up to us and asked us, like, in English, like they're like talking to us like slowly to see if we'd understand, because they thought we were German. Every place we went, people spoke to us in German first. This was the same in Austria. I have a video about Salzburg coming up in the video after this one. And yeah, so that is the next tip. Third tip is know where you want to go in advance. So do your homework beforehand, figure out where you want to go. I'm going to give my recommendations here in a minute, but just because if you are going to be there for a short amount of time, you want to make sure that you're getting in all you want to see in that short time period. Also, if you are there for a short amount of time and you don't have a hotel, especially if you have carry-on luggage and you just don't want to be toting it around with you all day, definitely store it in the lockers at the train station. That's what we did. We had carry-on only. We got off the plane in Munich. We took a train to the train station, and actually on that train, I used a phone in selfie mode as a mirror to try to do Oktoberfest braids. And because I don't speak German, I was just looking at two other women who were going to the festival across from me and just kind of did thumbs up and thumbs down and pointed to my hair if they thought it looked good or not. And so we did that. We got to the train station, and then we got out our suitcases. We took them to the bathrooms, which by the way have a seating area in them and like a place to get ready, but they do cost money, so be aware of that as well. So we would change into our costumes and then come back out, put our train or our luggage in the train lockers, go to the festival. When we were done with the festival, we came back, changed into normal clothes, and then locked up the bags again, mailed our stuff home, which is kind of my fourth tip, but is that fourth? Yeah. Yes, we mailed our stuff home, and then whenever we were gonna leave the city, we went back and got our bags. And so related to that, also just make sure that the clothes you need for when you arrive at your destination are at the top of your bag, so you don't have to dig through the rest of your bag, especially if you have it packed in a Tetris-like configuration to make everything fit. So, oh, and as far as mailing things home, we mailed it through DHL. It took a really long time for it to get back to us at home, but I mean, not like we needed Oktoberfest costumes right away, but we did get them back in time for Halloween, because we did this trip at the beginning of October and wore them again for Halloween. Okay, so now as far as things to do, the first would be definitely go to Marienplatz. It's the main square. There is a giant clock there that on the hour has like a cuckoo clock little performance thing, and it's really neat. You're gonna find any kind of shop or restaurant around there, and including the restaurant that I would recommend to you, which is called the Ratskeller. I'm gonna link that down below. But oh my gosh, a client recommended it to me and we could not have been happier with it. We peeked into a couple churches. One was St. Michael's Church. It was very beautiful. The other one is St. Peter's, which has all of these origami doves just in it. And I'll insert a picture, but it was gorgeous. And then there was a walkway right over there where we climbed this huge tower and ended up getting a really nice aerial view of the city. Other than that, what we would have included if we had more time was seeing the BMW museum. My husband really wanted to see that, and we would have liked to see some memorials and museums about the Holocaust, but we just didn't have the time. We did see something related to that though in Salzburg, in a different part of Germany via Salzburg, and I'm going to get into that in the Salzburg video, which is the next one after this. So that was our experience in Munich, but we did actually see a different part of Germany. We saw Bavaria the next day, but our starting point was not from Munich, it was from Salzburg. So I'm going to talk about that in the Salzburg video because it has to do more with that part of the trip. But here are some pictures of Bavaria. So if you are going to be in Munich and you're moving on to a different part of Germany and you want to see that, I would definitely recommend it. It was absolutely incredibly gorgeous, and yeah, just very peaceful. And it was funny, my husband and I both have German heritage, so we kind of were just looking around and feeling like, wow, this is where our family is from, and this is kind of, wow, you just feel this sense of belonging. But those are my tips on what to do and see in Munich, especially if you're there for a very short amount of time, if you're there for Oktoberfest, and if you have carry-on luggage. I have a video all about carry-on luggage, the bag I recommend, and everything like that. I'm gonna link that here as well as down below. And if you'd like to see videos about how I pack a carry-on for a trip, whether it's involving different climates, different types of attire that you need and things like that, let me know. I'd be happy to do a video about that. And also let me know down in the comments, are you going to Munich or are you just trying to plan a trip? Is Munich going to be a main destination for you? Is it going to be a stop on a bigger trip in Europe? Let me know. And don't forget to subscribe. It's just that red button down below. It's completely free. You just get notified when new videos come up. So then you won't miss the video on Salzburg I have coming up next, which I'm very excited about. You can go and check out my playlist as well. I'm gonna link that below as well, and it's gonna have my video about the itinerary of this whole trip that started with Munich, and then also videos about cruising and traveling and things like that. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask about travel down below. So if there's a place you'd like me to review, if I've been there, I'll do it. And if you wanna have tips on how to save money on trips, how to plan for them, what to pack, anything like that, ask me down below and I'll address it in another video. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.